Hello everyone, top 5 secondary weapons in Warframe. Yes, the final top 5 on the Gaming Weasel YouTube channel. We're gonna be covering 5 different, very different secondary weapons. We have Tenant, we have Kuva, we have honorable mentions, we have prime weapons, we have normal weapons. We have a lot of secondaries on the list. Without any further delay, I'm your lovely host, the Gaming Weasel. Let's first of all get into the info, and which of course is number 5 is not better than number 1, number 3 is not worse than number 2, and so on and so forth. Honorable mentions are just that, they are amazing weapons as well. I just didn't want to make a top 50 video because that wouldn't make any sense, so just keep that in mind. Before we do actually start the video, there is something appearing in my mod section. What the hell is going on here? Well, this is interesting. What is this? Do you like Japanese mythology and art? Do you also like wearing clothes in your free time and in public? Well, Project Orochi is gonna hook you up. They are a streetwear clothing brand that is inspired by Japanese mythology and art. They have many cool designs for t-shirts, hoodies, crew necks. Some of my favorites are gonna be the Kirin hoodie with a cute doggo on it with a cute hat. The Azura t-shirt with a dragon on it. Who doesn't like freaking dragons? And this fisherman t-shirt. He do be fishing. Is he going to fall into the water? Is he not? Well, you're gonna have to buy the t-shirt to actually find out. And last but certainly not least, my favorite hoodie, which is of course the Koi hoodie. 2 fishies on 1 pink hoodie, the best possible thing you can get. They also have video game inspired designs like Jin Sakai from Ghosts of Tsushima, this Wraith hoodie from Apex Legends, this Cyber Orochi hoodie inspired by Orochi from For Honor. They have many more designs from games such as Dark Souls, For Honor, and even more games. If you would like to order any of these cool designs, you can go down the description below, use the link, and use the code GAMINGWEASEL, all in capital letters, for 10% off for your entire order. They have free shipping within North America, and you can also give them a follow on Instagram to stay up to date with the latest releases, participate in monthly giveaways and community discussions as well. So what are you waiting for? Go to the link down below, treat yourself or a friend with an amazing gift for this amazing time of year. And now back to the video. Also, Orochi, thank you so much for sponsoring today's video. Now back to the actual video. After that, our video's sponsor, thank you guys so much again, we have our 5th weapon, the Tenant Plinks. Now the Tenant Plinks is the newest secondary added into Warframe with the Lewis Spray update, with the 2nd highest critical chance on its primary fire with 44%, a 3 times multiplier, and 12% status. Now you may be saying that's pretty bad. It does of course innate heat. I did went with heat as well when I was killing my sister, but it has an alt fire that does base radiation damage, has 40% critical chance, 3 times multiplier, 20% status chance, and a 6-meter explosion radius. Now, the build that you're going to be seeing is going to be the main primary build just for using it with the alt fire. And there you go, you can look at it right there. This weapon also has a cool feature. It has 10 rounds in its magazine. Now, it recharges the magazine, and every round above that, you're going to gain 10% extra damage. So, because I'm using Ice Storm, I have 4 extra rounds, meaning I do 40% extra damage. Now, a couple of mods of course can be changed out for expel mods as well, you know, expel corrupted, Grenier, so on and so forth. Secondary mercenaries for primary or secondary deadhead would be very nice as well, but it all is dependent. I'm personally using quick draw just because of the reload, because when you do fire your ult mode, you use up all of the ammo in the magazine, so recharge get a little bit faster will allow you to kill enemies much faster. Honestly, this weapon is very great because of the explosion radius, because of course the effect that it actually draws enemies inside of the explosion radius. Prime Fulmination also works on the explosion radius, so keep that in mind. The amazing critical chance, critical damage that you can do with this weapon is incredible. And also there's another cool thing. Now I'm going to show you guys the second build. Now the second build is a little bit changed. It has a synth charge, which does of course 200% bonus damage on its final shot, considering the alt fire mode basically uses up everything that counts as the final shot. Secondary deadhead, Ice Storm as well, what are you gonna do with this build? This build is very, very interesting. You can kill disruption targets, acolytes, eidolon parts. I haven't tried archons yet, but maybe could be good with this build. I do have in the top corner, you can see the little eye there. I made a build video on it 2 days ago. This weapon decimates enemies. It decimates enemies with the secondary build. You're gonna be killing everything. It is amazing for single targets that have high armor and health values, and even if you reduce the armor like I did in that video, they are pretty much going to die like it's nothing. This weapon is really, really good, and I definitely recommend you pick it up as soon as you possibly can. Now we're gonna be moving on to number 4. At number 4, we have a weapon that you may have not been expecting on the list. It is going to be the Zymost paired with Zaku's Gaze. Now, this weapon is acquired instead of Deimos, and this weapon is going to be very, very good for all of you Zaku players. Now, this weapon fires a toxin projectile, dealing, of course, toxin damage, a crit chance of 5.0, crit multiplier 2.3. And the great thing about this is when you do hit a target, it's going to split into 6 different toxin orbs, seeking out enemies in a range of 20 meters, and also dealing toxin damage and guaranteed impact procs. So the best thing is this is going to be a great combination for Hemorrhage. Another cool thing about this weapon is that the critical chance and critical damage bonuses are doubled. Once multiplied by modded crit chance, and then the second time at the end of the calculation. I will leave a little bit of a screenshot right there so you can see it, how it sort of works, a little bit of a, I guess, spreadsheet on the wiki. This weapon, basically what you need to do is put gaze on an enemy, shoot at its head constantly, and basically you're going to be getting constant damage. The build is going to look like this. We have secondary deadhead, of course, hemorrhage, all of the crit mods you can possibly put on, galvanized diffusion, shot, and crosshairs, because it will benefit from crosshairs as well, and because it does do innate corrosive damage, Jolt is going to make it that in innate toxin damage. Jolt is going to make that into corrosive. One other thing that you can do, you could combine it into viral as well, so it's up to you all on what you want to do there. Personally, I found a little bit more luck with corrosive, but you can of course mod it to however you like. The Zaku build is right there. It's a pretty plain and simple Zaku build. Keep in mind that this weapon does have knockback as well, so Prime Sharpfoot is going to be an amazing mod to have on your Zaku. Honestly, compare this weapon with any Warframe that you possibly want to. It's just that Zaku's Gaze reduces the enemy's armor by 100%. It makes them stand still, making you easier to shoot that headshot and get those amazing damage numbers. So the Zymos, a weapon that you may have not been expecting, may have not even used, you should definitely give it a try. And at number 3, we have one of my favorite Prime, the weapons, the Piranha or Piranha Prime. Now this weapon has slash damage as its primary damage, 24% critical chance, 2.2 times critical multiplier. Now this weapon does have a little bit less critical stats than the normal Piranha, or a shorter range, damage fall off, it has a smaller magazine, lesser reload speed, but keep in mind, if you kill 3 enemies within 2 seconds with this weapon, it's gonna summon another ethereal Piranha, turning this weapon into a Kimbo shotgun slashing weapon, doubling its magazine capacity and increasing its fire rate by 40%. Believe me, this weapon shreds through enemies, shreds through acolytes as well. I love this weapon. It has a decent status chance per pellet of 3.6, but it could be a little bit higher, so we're gonna try to compensate that by, of course, the build on the screen. Now, I mainly focused on corrosive here. I have found that maybe corrosive is a little bit better. It's really difficult to, go down to the exact numbers, but in my honest opinion, in my gameplay, corrosive turns out to be a little bit better. We do have, of course, fire, lethal torrent for fire rate. We do have Karna's Stinger as well for some more slash damage and more status chances, just to increase it that little bit. I could have put the Jolt mod, but I decided to put Karna's Stinger. Of course, secondary Merciless, because of course more damage and more reload speed. Who doesn't like that? This weapon is an incredible prime weapon. I love this weapon. It's been a long time since this weapon released, but it's still holding its ground even towards like so many competitors. It is truly amazing, and I definitely recommend you give it a try, or I guess a refresh if you haven't already or never used it before. It is a really fun shotgun secondary, doing, as I said, amazing amounts of slash damage. Of course, viral could be possibly better, but in my situation, I do have to say that I have found that corrosive is just that little bit better. But of course, Warframe, you can make your own builds. Now moving on to number 2. At number 2, we have, well, 2 weapons, surprisingly enough. We have the Kuva and the Epitaph as well. We are, of course, splitting this into the 2 best primers in my honest opinion, secondary-wise, and starting off with the Epitaph and talking about its charge shot. This charge shot does slash damage. It has forced impact procs, so hemorrhage could be pretty good. We have crit chance, the highest crit chance out of any secondary in the game, 48%, a crit multiplier of 2.6, and that is very good. If you pair this weapon with Hero or Ureli, this weapon can do insane amount of damage with its primary charge shot. The build looks like this. We have, of course, Creeping Bullseye, Hemorrhage, of course, that is amazing, Lethal Torrent for fire rate, Hornet Strike, Target Cracker, all that cool jazz. You could change out Ice Storm for another mod if you really want to, for Frostbite, or maybe an Expel Grineer one, or even the Hornet Strike one, because I did not put, what's it called? I did not put the secondary Merciless on this weapon, or the Deadhead, just because I use this as a primer primarily. Now, as a primer, the uncharged AoE shot does forced cold procs and also blast damage. It does have a 1.0 crit multiplier and 0% crit chance, so that's, you're not going to be doing any crits with this. It has a range of 8 meters and a stash chance of 50%. It is benefited by Fulmination and Prime Fulmination, and the build looks like this. Now, I do have Blast, keep that in mind. We do also have Galvanized Shot, Perpetual Agony, just for the duration of the actual status procs, Gunslinger, so I fire fast, Lethal Torrent as well, Scorch, Pistol, Pestilence, Ice Storm, and Barrel Diffusion. Of course, you can make your weapon a little bit different than mine. I did this because, honestly, throughout my gameplay in Warframe, using this as a primer, this has worked incredibly well for me. If, of course, you do not like this, you can definitely change that out, but, you know, even the first, I guess, damage, the high damage charge build for the Epitaph is really good. Now, talking about the Kuva Nucor. The Kuva Nucor does base radiation damage. It has a crit chance of 7.0 and a crit multiplier of 5.0, a status chance of 50%, so that is very good. It has 0 punch through, but keep that in mind, we're gonna buff that up a little bit later. Now, the best elemental to get on this weapon is gonna be magnetic. I sadly did not get magnetic, but I still have 3 different elements on it, allowing me to take full, I guess, opportunity of condition overload. Now, the actual primer build looks like this. We have a Seeker for that punch through, because punching through enemies is always going to be good. We have Gunslinger for fire rate and agility as well, Frostbite, Deep Freeze, Pathogen Rounds, Galvanized Diffusion, and Pistol Pestilence, and secondary Merciless, just because. Now, in the, I guess, auxiliary slot, what you can do is going to be putting Prime the Pistol Mutation. But honestly, I don't think you're gonna need it. Now, one cool thing about this build is I'm gonna be doing electrical, I'm gonna be doing radiation, and also viral damage. Now, the only thing that I do not like about this weapon is I personally don't like it as a primer that much as I do the Epitaph, but that's just personally me. Nonetheless, I do use Roar on occasion with this weapon, because even with this build, you can do insane amounts of damage. But if you want to do damage, then this build is going to be the build for you. Nothing really has much changed, but we put Primed Pistol Gambit and the Target Cracker as well, Diffusion and Shot here instead of the elemental mods, and still keeping viral and then electricity as well. Now, one thing that you can do, and that I recommend you do, is pair this weapon with Hero and or Ureli. It is going to be much better, or even a Warframe that has a Roar, Eclipse, and or Zaka's Whisper on this, and even without that, you just have to aim for heads. So that's, I guess, a little bit of a drawback, but nonetheless, this weapon can definitely still melt through enemies even with the damage build itself. So, That was our 2 primers. Moving on to the honorable mentions, of course. And at our honorable mentions, we have the first weapon, the Neil Prime, our little pistol sniper rifle, doing really good critical chance and critical multiplier damage, of course, sniping your targets, and a really fun weapon, the Oxomati Prime as well, a dual-wielding pistol, doing incredible amounts of slash damage, decimating enemies, the Catabolist with its beam-like structure and its reload mechanic where when you reload you fire off a ball of doom doing massive amounts of damage, and also the Tenant Cyclone. If you're that sort of cool guy who doesn't want to prime with the Kuvanukor, this weapon is very nice as well. And now moving on to the number one spot, we of course have the Latham. I think a lot of you guys were expecting this. There is no other weapon that can be, I guess, at the top, even though I did say number 1 is not better than number 5, but the Latham has to be mentioned. This weapon is incredibly good with its incarnate form, doing a massive amount of damage, killing basically anything that you're gonna be coming across. Anything in Warframe can be killed with this weapon. It has a primary fire mode where you just tap, shoot to do slash damage, 22% critical chance, and a 2.2 times multiplier. Also, the same goes for the actual radial attack of the incarnate mode. And the incarnate mode has 2 meters, I guess, splash radius or damage radius of a 22% status chance, primarily doing radiation damage. And this can be benefited with prime fulmination, of course, of the actual range of the weapon. Now, you might be asking, well, what are evolutions and what are your evolutions? First one, of course, is going to be unlocking the incarnate mode. The second one being a 20% fire rate. The third one, 30% reload speed for 12 seconds. That stacks up to 3 times. And then the fourth one is going to be 50% more incarnate transmutation on headshots. And the last one, 50% chance to deal 2000 damage on non-critical hits. This weapon, if you mod it for nothing critical and just purely mod it for elemental like I did right now, you are going to be doing crazy amounts of damage. Now, Steady Hands is going to be very good here because it does have a little bit of a recoil. Auger Pact can be changed out for a Galvanized Shot because you're applying heat, radiation, and also applying viral on the weapon, or I guess on the enemy, so Galvanized Shot could be pretty good. I'm using Auger Pact just because I need to put another form inside and I can't be bothered. Even with this build, this weapon does incredible amounts of damage. Basically, what I do is shoot heads, get that incarnate form, then use up my incarnate mode, shoot to 2 or 3 heads, and then recharge the incarnate mode. This weapon can shred through anything. When I do Archon hunts, this is the weapon that I use. I do not use basically no primary, no secondary, no melee, or I guess secondary delay them, but I basically just go in with my Revenant, activate Roar, and then boom, the Acolyte dies. And also I was talking about the Archons. Yes, everything is starting on A these days. I just basically kill the Archon and that's it. This weapon is really good. Fulmination could be pretty good on this weapon, but I don't truly recommend it just because you're going to be losing out on that damage. You do have a little bit of a, bigger blast radius, but it won't help out that much in my honest opinion. I much rather have a different mod on there. But nonetheless, the Latham is an incredible weapon. This weapon has been nerfed and still is on top in my honest opinion. And that is basically it. That is my top 5. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, do leave a like, a comment, and do subscribe for more. You can become a channel member now if you want to support me directly. It'll be greatly appreciated. And I will see you guys on the next one. It's been the Gaming Weasel, over and out.